This program is based on the existing Selling for Real training title. In it, we'll examine how, by taking control of the sales process, you can increase or at least maintain your profit margin. The methods shown are only a guideline and are not intended to be a script. You must use your own style. However, these methods do work. Throughout the program, you'll be asked questions. For some, you'll need to keep pen and paper handy. In others, you can register your answers on the screen. Please note that since the video was produced, certain facts have changed. However, training principles remain just as valid. When you're ready to start, move the arrow to the Continue button and click.
But surely you're not saying that you can't offer any discount? Everybody else does.
I was hoping you'd be able to offer me some sort of discount. How much off that 13,920 price could I expect?
Look, all I want from you is the real price, including whatever discount you're eventually going to offer me.
Well, there's no doubt about it. It's a lovely car, but your price is still £200 away from the other dealers. £200 is £200.
How to deal with customers like that. Customers pushing hard for a discount. That's what this edition of Selling for Real is all about. And I'm sure I don't have to tell you that today's customers are putting more and more pressure on you to give them a better deal. Now, I'm no expert on the motor industry, but in my job, reading the news, I can't help but notice that recently there's been something of a price war going on. As a consumer, I can't say it bothers me too much. The longer consumers keep pushing prices down, the better. It's like houses, isn't it? It's a buyer's market. But from your point of view, I can also see that things have got to change. You can't go on giving away your profit. You have to find a way of resisting customer demands for discount. In a moment, I'll be joined by Peugeot's Head of Sales Training, Peter Haynes, and together we'll look hard at this thorny subject. I'm now joined by Peter Haynes. Hello, Peter, and welcome.
Hello. Program.
What exactly do you mean by personal control, and how is that linked up to the question of resisting discount?
I think the best thing we can do is to have a look at the first of our role plays.
Right. Now, these are sort of reconstructions with actors, yes?
Yeah, and incidentally, I don't expect anybody watching the programme to see them as anything but actors. I mean, they're not real salespeople. But the gist of what's happening is realistic. And I would like to stress that we haven't just plucked the scenarios out of a hat. We've spent a lot of time, since the announcement of the reduced margin, talking and listening to dealer principals, sales managers and salespeople. And the scenarios we're showing are based on the issues that they've highlighted.
Okay. Well, let's begin by looking at the issue of personal control during first contact with the customer. In this case, on the telephone.
Right. Well, the price on the road is £14,000.
Peugeot's most recent mystery shopping exercise proved that salespeople often lose control of the sales conversation very early on. The experiment demonstrated that 12% of sales staff receiving a new car inquiry on the phone offer discount in reply to a soft question such as, "How much does a 405 GLD cost?" When pushed a little further with a question such as, "Okay, but what are you actually selling them for?" or "That's all very well, but what's your best price?" then a further 14% offered discount.
Good morning, new car sales. John Maynard speaking. How can I help you?
Yes, sir. I wonder if you can. I'm just in the process of thinking about changing my car, and I've pretty much settled on the 405 Estate.
Good, I see.
How much is the GLD in the non-turbo version? You know, just the standard diesel model in the 405 Estate.
So, Peter, what does that mean? Why the warning sign that the phone call had hardly started?
Well, throughout these short role plays, what we've done is to put in what we're calling control points, with optional pause points as well. The points at which, from the salesperson's point of view, there is a danger of losing control.
So losing control can mean giving too much discount?
Yeah, losing control of the sales conversation is effectively losing the initiative. If you do that, you lose the ability to ask questions, which in turn means you lose the opportunity to qualify your customer. All this means that the customer has more control and so quite naturally feels more able to push for discount.
And that question from the customer, the one about the price of a GLD estate, that's a control point, but why?
Well, because the danger is that at this point the conversation focuses only on price, with the customer in the driving seat and the salesperson doing nothing more than reacting, answering questions instead of asking them.
So what's the alternative?
Well, if you pass me the remote, we'll have a look at the next section of the role play.
I can see you're in no danger of losing control, Peter.
How much is the GLD in the non-turbo version? You know, just the standard diesel model in a 405 estate.
Right, well, if you'll just bear with me for a moment, sir. Let's have a look. Right. Well, the price on the road is £14,305.
Sure, but what can you do them for? I mean, what kind of discount can I expect?
Okay, so there's another of those control points. What's the issue here?
Well, so far the salesman's doing fine. Through a basic price inquiry, he's given the on-the-road price, but quite obviously now the customer's pushing harder.
And is it here then, Peter, at this point, that salespeople often give a discount over the telephone?
Yeah, that can often be the case.
Right. Let's see what happens.
Okay.
Sure, but what can you do them for? I mean, what kind of discount can I expect?
Well, it's impossible for me to answer that question on the phone. It depends on a number of other issues.
What issues? Look, all I want to know is the price of the standard model, the basic GLD estate.
I do understand, sir, but it really does depend on so many other factors. From our point of view, what we do or don't have in stock. From your point of view, what options or accessories you're interested in. And, of course, the value of any part exchange.
I see.
Do you have an existing vehicle that you'd be part exchanging?
Yes, but really all I want at this stage is the price of a new car. You know, the real price, including whatever discount you can offer me.
I quite understand, sir. But the price I can or can't offer you will depend on your part exchange. And, of course, its condition.
I see.
Look, do you mind if I ask, what is your part exchange, the car you're driving at the moment?
Well, OK, if it really makes a difference. It's a Sierra 1.8 estate, a G-Reg.
Oh, nice car. A petrol engine?
Yeah, 1.8 GLX. It's done about 70,000 miles, but the bodywork's like new. It's always been kept in a garage from new.
Sounds good. I'd very much like to see it. What made you decide to switch to diesel?
Well, I do a fair number of miles in a year. Fuel consumption's become an issue. It's not a company car, but I do charge my firm mileage, so the less I'm paying out, the better, if you follow me.
Surely. I'm sorry, I didn't get your name, Mr...
Addison.
And you're at work now, Mr. Addison?
Yes. Why?
It's just that I could drive a GLD over to you and take a look at your car there so that we can get to a better idea of price on the new one. Have you ever driven the 405 estate?
No.
What made you consider it, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, looks mainly. My brother-in-law drives one, and he's always going on about the handling. He's very impressed with it. But, look, there's no need you coming to see me. I pass you every night. What time are you open until?
7:30, 8 if need be. Look, we can make an appointment now if you like, just to make sure I'm available when you arrive.
OK, that sounds fine. Tonight will be difficult, but, I can do tomorrow.
7 too early?
No, that'll be fine.
And can I just take your number, Mr. Addison?
Surely. You're best off with my work number. That's Amped Hill 321...
321...
748.
321 748. See you tomorrow at 7 then, Mr. Addison.
OK, cheers.
Bye now.
When a customer asks for a price over the telephone, in which of the following ways would you respond? For each statement, simply move the arrow over yes or no and click a control button.
I'm sorry, I can't discuss price over the phone.
Actually, there's no reason why you shouldn't give the on-the-road price. However, you are right not to get into a discounting conversation.
Well, on the road price is $14,350.
This is a good start. Just make sure you don't get into a discounting situation over the phone.
I'm sure that if you can come in, then I'll be able to arrange a suitable discount.
Correct. it's not very professional to have to buy your face-to-face meetings. Using your sales skills here will help you retain your profit.
The on-the-road price is £14,350. However, the actual price depends on many other factors, such as...
This approach is acceptable and can lead nicely into open-ended qualification questions. And when the caller asks for a discounted price over the telephone, how would you handle this?
I can't discuss discounts over the phone.
In fact, this is a correct response, if somewhat abrupt. If said politely and with an explanation as to why you can't discuss discounts, then this is a perfectly good response.
We're currently doing a 5% discount.
Correct. By giving discount now, you're effectively removing room for negotiation at the later face-to-face stage.
Oh, you need to talk to my boss about that.
Yes, that's right. From the caller's viewpoint, you represent the dealership. As such, it's your responsibility to retain profit margins. Passing the buck does neither you nor your manager any favours.
A discount? Well, that depends on lots of things. Whether you'll take a car from stock and your part exchange, for example. You do have a part exchange.
Spot on. This response keeps you well in control. How did the salesman in the video keep control of the telephone sales inquiry? Select 3 from the list below, then click on the Done button to proceed. Yes, well done.
So, looking back at that control point.
Yeah, when the customer said, what kind of discount can I expect?
Yes, my notes read, didn't John Maynard, the salesman, reply, that's an impossible question to answer over the telephone. It depends on a number of other issues.
Yeah, the key thing there is that the salesman is being honest. It is an impossible question to answer over the telephone, and he explains why.
Because of what is and isn't in stock, options, accessories and so on?
Yeah, straight answers backed up with good explanations. That keeps you in control.
So is that all there is to it then? Just being straight, being clear? I mean, surely that alone isn't going to stop the conversation focusing on price, is it?
No, you're right. Real control isn't just about reacting confidently to the customer's inquiry. It's also about widening the conversation.
And how do you do that?
Well, by asking questions, just as John the salesman in that last role play did. He kept asking questions, and asking questions slows things down and gives the asker of the questions control.
I see that John asked quite a few questions, didn't he, as things went on?
Yeah, he did. Do you have an existing vehicle to part exchange? What is that car? Why the change to diesel? Have you ever driven a 405 estate? Why are you considering it? And so on.
So, 3 things there then. I mean, giving straightforward, honest answers, backed up with good explanations, and asking questions to widen the conversation. Anything else?
Yeah, above all, the salesman had an aim to the call. He wasn't just reacting to the customer's aim of getting a price.
And the salesman's aim was what? To arrange an appointment, a meeting?
Well, I think it's more than that. It's to get a firm appointment. And we saw that he used a sales inquiry handler form to structure the way that he did that.
Well, a lot of points there from that one scenario.
Here's how to control a telephone price inquiry and key points to remember.
Respond honestly and give a full explanation. Don't give a discount over the phone. Widen the conversation to move away from price by asking open questions. Who, what, why, when, where, etc. For example, what car do you wish to part exchange? Or why the change to diesel? Have an objective to arrange a face-to-face meeting. Use a sales inquiry handler to structure the conversation.
Well, welcome back to those of you who took that pause. But in fairness, Peter, most of that last scenario hinged on the fact, didn't it, that the customer did have a part exchange. And that gave John a line of questioning to follow. But What happens if you're dealing with someone who doesn't have a part exchange? What do you do then?
Right, well, if we run another role play, we can find out.
Good afternoon, new car sales. Gordon Owen speaking. How can I help you?
Hello, yes. I'm about to change jobs, which will mean giving back my company car. And my new job will mean me buying my own car.
I see, sir, yeah?
Well, I'm really at this stage just trying to get a sense of price.
Fine. Can I take your name, please, sir?
Yes, of course, it's Henry Adams.
Thank you. And what model in particular was it you're interested in?
Your 405. You do a 2-litre, don't you?
A 2-litre injection, yes, Mr. Adams.
And how much is that?
Just the basic one.
Presumably we're talking about petrol then, are we?
Petrol, yes, definitely.
And when you say basic, what exactly did you have in mind?
Well, I just meant the least expensive. I know I want a 2-litre engine, but it doesn't have to be an all-singing, all-dancing one. It's the size of the engine that matters.
I see.
And the company car's going back, so you won't have anything to part exchange.
No, as I say, I just need to know the price so that I can compare.
Are you just looking at the 405 or at other cars?
Oh, well, yes, I'm looking at one or two other possibilities.
Can I ask you what cars in particular?
Well, yes, I'm also looking at the Cavalier. It's just the two. All I need to know is your best price for the 405 2-litre so that I can compare that with the Cavalier 2-litre. It's just the two. All I need to know is your best price for the 405 2-litre so that I can compare that with the Cavalier 2-litre.
Well, if you bear with me, I can give you the on-the-road price over the phone now, Mr. Adams. There we go. It comes out at 13920.
£13,920.
I see, but I was assuming you'd be able to offer me some discount. How much off that price could I expect? How much off that price could I expect?
Discount is not something I could discuss with you over the phone, I'm afraid. I can only discuss it in relation to a particular car. There are many different versions of the 405 2-litre, different options, different paint finishes and so on.
I see.
Well, I'm not really interested in fancy paintwork and accessories and so forth, just the price of the basic car.
Of course.
But when we do know what colour you're looking at, whether we do or don't have it in stock, can actually affect the price of the car. And then, of course, there's the issue of how you're planning to pay. Would you be thinking of paying cash or partly with finance?
Oh, there'll definitely be some finance. I'll put in 5,000 or so, but the rest will be HP or whatever.
Well, we do offer a whole range of financial packages, but again, the best way to discuss these is face-to-face. Have you actually driven the 405 yet?
A while back, yes, back in 91, may have been 90. I had one as a hire car for a couple of weeks.
I think you'll be surprised to find how much the 405's advanced since then. Now, they're always a super car, but the new ones, since October 92, they really are superb. You've got to drive them to appreciate the difference.
Oh, I see. I didn't realise that, but they still look the same, don't they?
Well, yeah, the bodywork's virtually identical, but the interior's been considerably improved. Probably a lot plusher than when you last drove it. Perhaps I could offer you a test drive.
Well, yes, I suppose that makes sense. What time are you open till?
Well, just to make sure the demonstrator's available, I'll fix up an appointment.
Gordon's strategy was to arrange a face-to-face meeting. What would you use as an incentive to induce a customer to visit you? Jot down your answers, then click on the Continue button to compare them to our list.
I see we flagged the salesman's questions as he asked them in that role play, presumably to make the point that they kept him in control.
Yeah, the same logic applies. Again, we saw him giving clear information and a clear explanation of why he couldn't give discount over the phone, but then widening the conversation as soon as possible by using probing questions.
What about the question at the pause point? What was the overall strategy then behind that phone call?
Well, as it should be for any phone call where the customer is making a price inquiry. 1, refuse to give discount. 2, explain why. 3, widen the conversation. 4, give the customer a reason for a meeting.
In this case, the test drive.
Well, yes, but it could also be to look at the part exchange or to discuss finance options. Then 5, make the appointment firm. And 6, if the appointment is over 24 hours away, confirm it by letter. This will help create an obligation on the part of the customer to keep the appointment.
Right. I think that covers the problems of giving discount over the telephone. Can we move on now then, Peter, though, to the face-to-face meeting? What then?
How would you respond in the face of a competitive offer? Which of the following would you use as a response?
Talk of a competitive deal rather than a discount.
Not a bad choice. You remain in control because the deal might not have to include actual discounts. There are alternative deals.
Emphasize the real cost, the cost to change over cars.
An excellent choice. You're not sidestepping the discount issue, but by putting it in context, you retain control, avoiding a bartering situation.
Ask what the rival dealer offered and match it.
Absolutely right. Sell the benefits of the Peugeot over the competition and you'll increase its value in the customer's mind. After all, if they were convinced they wanted another make, why are they in your showroom?
Ask what the rival dealer offered and negotiate up to halfway.
You're right not to use this tactic. Although not as bad as matching the rival dealer's discount, remember you're not comparing like with like. Sell the advantages of Peugeot ownership.
Ask your sales manager for advice.
You can ask your sales manager for advice, but make it the last resort as you'll undermine your position with the customer by doing so.
Right. I think I feel another role play coming on, Peter.
I think you do.
Here's Bill Addison, the customer who called up about a 405 diesel estate. Since speaking to John on the telephone, he's managed to sell his Sierra estate privately. He's pretty pleased with himself about this and has dropped by the dealership to talk money face to face.
Yeah.
So, you sold your Sierra then, sir?
Yeah, another fellow at work. When he found out I was thinking of trading it in, he wanted to buy it. So, that should simplify things a bit now, shouldn't it?
Surely.
So perhaps now you can tell me what kind of discounts I can expect.
Of course. But first, as I said, there are a whole load of variables which can affect the sort of offer we can make you.
But I've told you, I've sold the car. All I want now is a straight price for a 405. Blimey, anybody would think you fellas, you wouldn't sell me a flaming car.
It may seem that way, Mr. Addison. It's just that I don't want to pull any old figure out of a hat. Why don't we go and sit down, look at a few options that are available, have a look at what we've got in stock, and then, if you'd like, test drive a vehicle that's as close as possible to the one that you're considering.
Okay, fine. I'm sorry, John, is it? Sorry, John. I know you're only trying to do your job, but it's just that I thought that you could pull a price off a list.
Well, I could do that, but I think we can do better than that if I can just get a full picture of your needs.
How can you improve your technique for turning price inquiries into presentations? Select any of the methods you'd use and here are comments. Click on the Continue button to move on. This is a very useful method so long as you play it straight. Obviously, this is the correct way to improve. Hopefully you'll pick up some of the professional techniques from this series of titles. In the desire to make a sale, it's all too easy to run ahead. Remember, your first aim should always be to have a qualified, confirmed face-to-face meeting and progress from there.
It isn't easy, is it?
No, it isn't. It takes a great deal of practice and even more confidence. You can't just expect to ad-lib.
Are you suggesting then that people learn that last scene like a sort of sales script?
Absolutely not, no. I mean, if every customer was the same, I might say yes, but in any case, every salesperson is different. We all have to use the words that work for us. But of course you can rehearse, and my advice is that you should. It can certainly build your confidence.
You make it all sound so, what's the word, calculating.
I wouldn't deny that. If you're a professional salesperson, you should know how to use professional sales techniques. Why not?
Why not indeed? So, let's move on now to look at a particularly difficult issue. And we've called it Peugeot versus Peugeot.
Henry Adams has now firmly settled on a Peugeot 405 rather than a Vauxhall Cavalier. But since talking to Gordon Owen on the telephone, he's also visited another Peugeot dealership.
Good idea, thank you.
OK, so you've got the list price for the Peugeot 405 GRI Saloon of 13,405. OK. You've gone for the metallic paint, so that's 200. The on-the-road pack at 515.
Yeah, what is that exactly, the road pack? What does that mean?
Well, it's a standard charge we make. It includes the delivery from the factory to the showroom. It includes your road fund licence, your number plates, those kind of things.
Oh, I see, yeah.
OK. Your mud flaps, front and rear, at 60, which brings us up to that total of 14,180, £14,180. However, because you're prepared to take a car we have in stock at the moment, I'm able to reduce that to the special offer price of 13,510, which is a saving there of £670.
Well, it's certainly a lovely car, but your price, but it's still £200 away from the other dealers, and £200 is £200. Well, it's certainly a lovely car, but your price, but it's still £200 away from the other dealers, and £200 is £200.
If they're quoting you on exactly the same things I'm quoting you on, you've got yourself a very good deal there. I would just say this, though. Make sure you check the small print very carefully before you make your final decision.
How do you mean, for what sort of things?
Just to be sure they've included your road tax, check that it's for 12 months rather than for 6, that they've included the cost of delivery, your mud flaps. Of course, we've given you the mats for free. I mean, they're only little things, but they all add up.
Nevertheless, £200.
Oh, I agree. It's not an amount I'd ignore. But tell me, what, other than the price you're paying for the new car, is actually important to you?
How do you mean?
Well, how important is the quality of servicing, the backup, the use of loan cars while your car's in, that kind of thing?
Well, it matters, certainly. I mean, one of the things that annoyed me about the company Rover was not just the car, it was the attitude.
At the dealership?
Well, yes.
Let's look at the options you have when you find yourself undercut by another Peugeot dealer. Henry said,
It's a lovely car, but your price is still £200 away from the other dealer. £200 is £200.
Which of the following would you consider?
Make sure that Henry's quote and yours are like for like.
You might find a difference, which would mean you won't have to move on price, so you should try this option.
Offer discounts by way of high-value services to the customer, but low cost to the dealership, for example, servicing, warranty, etc.
This is a good alternative to moving on price, and it keeps you in control because you can find out what else the customer values other than just the price.
Offer to match their offer.
Right. Use your dealership's unique advantages, locality, services, etc. to increase the customer's desire to deal with you.
Increase the allowance on Henry's part exchange.
This is only a discount in another guise. If you can sell up the advantages of your dealership, then even if you do need to move on price in the end, perhaps it won't be so far.
Is all this service and backup stuff, though, Peter, leading anywhere? I mean, just before the control point, the customer says quite clearly that the £200 price difference does matter.
Yeah, certainly it does, but on the other hand, there must be some doubt in the customer's mind, otherwise he wouldn't be at the dealership. And I'm not saying that the salesman's tactic is guaranteed to work, and the point is that his question...
And I've got that question here, isn't it? What else, apart from the price you're paying for the new car, is important to you?
That's right. That question really puts him in control again. At least he establishes that the customer does care about servicing, backup, and overall attitude.
So at least he can go on to try and sell those things.
Yeah, the point is that he can deal with the £200 problem in two ways. He might move on price, but that should really be a last resort. First, he should try adding value in ways that matter to the customer, perhaps by offering free servicing for a year or a free 2-year warranty. It really depends on the customer's priorities.
But surely those things are expensive. I mean, a 2-year warranty, that could cost almost all that £200, couldn't it?
Well, retail to the customer, the answer would be yes, and that's why it's a good negotiating stance. But it needn't cost the dealership all that money, and it has to be worth considering before deciding to give away £200 in cash.
So, just to recap, what can salespeople do when faced with competition on price from another Peugeot dealer?
Well, the last resort is to move on price. That's really a sales cop-out. First, find out if the quote is really like for like. Secondly, establish what else matters to the customer apart from the price. Thirdly, try settling without giving cash away by offering low-cost, high-value items, such as the free servicing we mentioned earlier. If you're more local, of course, you can push the convenience of your location. 4, only if all 3 of these fail should you move on price, and don't go all the way at once. Try meeting the customer halfway. You never know, it might be enough.
OK. Well, that's an example of how to deal with discount pressures caused by other Peugeot dealers. But what about competition from other manufacturers? Well, let's look at how you propose salespeople deal with that tricky issue in this next role play.
Right.
Okay, so the 106 XT we're looking at has a list price of 8975.
Yeah, that's without a discount.
Sure, without a discount. And then we've got the on-the-road pack of £515, which gives you a total of £9,490.
Yes, OK.
Now, as your car is in such good condition, the current market value of that vehicle is £2,100.
Really? The people who sold it to me are offering me £2,550.
I know you see this particular control point as very dangerous.
Yes, I do, and it's not surprising. I mean, to be told that you're £450 out does tend to put you on the defensive.
And presumably, if you're on the defensive, then you can't be in control.
No, the danger is that you get into a pure price argument centred on the part exchange. Or worse, you twist your sales manager's arm to get another £300 or £400 in over-allowance.
But presumably there is another way, I mean, an in-control way.
Well, yes, and if we let the role play continue, the use of the illustration form will become clearer.
Really? The people who sold it to me are offering me £2,550.
OK, that's a pretty competitive offer. But if you don't mind, let me put that in terms that really matter. Your cost to change from the car you've got now to the 106 XT.
Yes, all right.
OK. Which gives us a cost to change of £7,390.
That's a lot of money. Do you mind? It's a good £900 more than for the Fiesta. Well, surely you can improve on that figure. Well, surely you can improve on that figure.
Well, I think if I had a word with my sales manager, I could improve on the part exchange price. But price aside, how do you actually feel about the 106 in comparison to the Fiesta?
Well, obviously I prefer the 106, especially in looks. But price is the issue.
She's not budging, Peter. What now?
Well, let's just slow things right down here and review our options, because, quite honestly, the most common problem here is a mixture of rush and panic. At this point, the customer is not about to walk out, so we can afford to take our time.
So, he's taking his time. But what should he do?
Well, just as with the other role play, the Peugeot versus Peugeot one, you can add value or move on price. And probably, in this situation, eventually, you'll have to do a little bit of both.
So, cave in? Give away the £100, £900 in a mixture of cash and added goodies?
No, I'd say the complete opposite. See how little you can give away, and you do this in two ways, by continuing to build the desire for the product and by trial closing.
Trial closing.
Well, let's see how the salesperson demonstrates that.
The illustration form is a vital aid to trial closing. Trial closing is a powerful way of staying in control of the sales process during the final negotiations over price. Gordon has effectively already trial closed once by completing the illustration form. And by illustrating cost to change, based on the undiscounted price of the new car, he leaves himself plenty of room for manoeuvre. This stage would have been much more difficult had he A. already discounted the new car price, or B. already over-allowed on the part exchange. Admittedly, this first trial close appears to have failed. Joan is unhappy with the cost to change. It's now up to Gordon to try alternative trial closes.
Supposing I were able to reduce that 900 to 750, would that help? I might be able to reduce that cost to change by as much as 50% if you're prepared to take the XT we have in stock, the red one. Would that be of any interest to you? I can have a word with my sales manager if you like. If you were to commit to take delivery this month, I'm sure I could improve on that offer quite considerably. When would you be ready to buy? Has a list price.
There are many creative trial closes worth trying before you give the customer all the discount they're asking for. After all, they're taking up a negotiating position just as much as you are.
Yes, all right.
If you're going to move on price, use your negotiating skills to trade your movement for some concession on the customer's part.
I'm sure we could move a bit on price, particularly if you were prepared to place the finance with us through Peugeot Finance. Would that be acceptable to you? Okay. Well, what I would suggest that we do is go and have a look.
But in some cases, price will remain the sticking point, and you'll be tempted to go all the way and offer maximum discount. This may not be the most profitable use of your stock, so do consider alternatives.
We go down and have a look at that one in the showroom now. I can tell you like the 106, and obviously I'd very much like to sell you one. If price really is getting in the way, perhaps you'd be interested in the demonstration model. You know, the one we use for the test drive. It's only got 500 miles on the clock. I'm sorry. I'd very much like to help further with price, but I simply cannot go any lower. But perhaps you'd be interested in a quality used car. It'd have very low mileage, and I could offer you a 2-year warranty.
Joan was after a discount, so she tried to increase her part exchange allowance. She said,
"The people who sold it to me offered me £2,550. That's £450 more than your valuation."
What should you do in this situation?
Walk away because there's no possibility of a deal?
Right, you'll need to negotiate, giving away as little as possible. Try trial closes at frequent intervals.
See if you can squeeze a little more out of the sales manager?
Correct, you're still at a relatively early negotiation stage. See if you can shift the emphasis away from cash and onto service.
Tell the customer the offer is ridiculous?
Obviously correct. All you'll succeed in doing is putting the customer's back up.
Look at the actual cost, the cost of changing to a Peugeot.
Right, this approach keeps you in control, even if later you do have to move on price.
Use the sales inquiry form and appraisal form to persuade her that her car's not worth £2,550.
If the information on the forms gives a valid reason why her car's not worth the money offered, then you should use your discretion in explaining the situation. In this case, the forms are in fact a valuable tool.
Increase the allowance on her part exchange by the £450.
You're right not to increase the allowance. If you have to move at all on price, use your sales and negotiating skills to give away as little as possible. To do this, you'll need to stay in control, so don't rush. Joan said,
The cost to change to a 106XT is £900 more than for the Fiesta. Surely you can improve on that figure?
How would you handle this? Here are a few techniques you could try.
Reaffirm that the customer prefers the 106 to the Fiesta and sell the benefits of the 106 up. Agreed cost to change is a big issue, but not the only one. Slow things down. Ask questions.
To clinch this deal, the salesman will have to move, but try adding value with low-cost, high-value extras such as a year's free servicing. Only as a final resort, move on price, but even then not all the way. Remember, you can turn a price objection into a trial close. For example,
It's clear you prefer the 106 to the Fiesta. If I can get the sales manager to agree to an extra £200 for your part exchange and include a free year servicing as well, what would you think to that?
think of examples for yourself and try them out on your colleagues.
Presumably in some of those alternatives, though, the salesman is accepting a lower margin.
Yeah, but the point here is if you are forced to accept a lower margin, try to trade your concessions for concessions on the customer's side.
Such as?
Well, such as things we've seen there. Selling a car from stock. That can save £80 on transfer costs. Selling an ex-demonstrator. Selling a car your sales manager wants to move.
Now, I know that was our last role play. Why no final scene with the customer actually buying a car?
Because that's not the point of the video. What we've tried to cover are the key danger moments that lead to heavy discounting. It's quite possible that you could be on top of all of these and yet not make the deal.
Right. So, let's just summarise the key points that we've looked at.
Firstly, never discount on the telephone. By all means imply you can improve on a price, but don't actually give a discounted price. Only give the on-the-road list price. 2. On the telephone, sell an appointment, not a deal. 3. Ask questions. They put you in control, which makes it harder for your customer to control you. 4. Avoid conversations that focus solely on price. Always try to move into qualification or presentation. 5. Make sure you're confident of your product knowledge, of financial packages, or, come to that, the Peugeot price assurance. Do your homework. It'll make you more confident and better able to control the sales conversation. 6. Build desire in that chosen car, with a full presentation, with a test drive, with your own personality and enthusiasm. Make the customer want the car before they decide if they can afford it. 7. Always use an illustration form to trial close. It creates commitment and puts you in a strong negotiating position. 8. Offer value rather than discount with items of high perceived value that are of low cost to the dealership. And finally, if at first you don't succeed, trial close, and trial close again. Be creative in your negotiations. Look for ways through the customer's objections. Help them to buy the car they so clearly desire.
So, plenty there to get your teeth into. And I'll certainly watch out next time I'm in a Peugeot showroom. Peter, thank you very much indeed for shedding light on a potentially complex subject.
Well, thanks very much to you for helping us to investigate this important issue. I hope the video has made things a little bit clearer. We really have got to do our best to resist high levels of discounting. It's not going to be easy, but brushing up on product knowledge and practicing handling those questions we know customers are going to ask will really help.
And thank you for watching this special edition of Selling for Real. From Peter and from me, goodbye and good luck.
Finally, in summary, here's a list of the key points which will help you in selling by enabling you to take personal control.
Never offer discounts on the telephone. Only quote on-the-road list prices. Use the telephone to sell appointments. Ask open questions to widen the conversation. Don't focus solely on price. Develop your confidence by improving your product knowledge. Build the desire for ownership of the car. Always use an illustration form. Add value rather than give discount. Offer what's valuable to the customer, but cheap to the dealership. Be creative with trial closes.
Finally, remember losing control means losing the initiative, and the customer is in control when talking about price.